Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we have a Battlefield 2042 State of the Game update. All jokes aside, it's not quite as doom and gloom as that intro suggests, but we're certainly not out of the woods regarding the future of this franchise. Yesterday, DICE launched their very first season of content called 0 Hour, an unfortunately memeable name for a game that has delivered, well, zero content since its release 7 months ago. Later in this video, I'm also going to be talking about a report from Jeff Grubb claiming that DICE only has a skeleton crew working on the game and that they are in abandoned ship mode, which DICE has since responded to. Now, yesterday, to nobody's surprise, the launch of Season 1 0 Hour was quite unstable, with servers being unjoinable for several hours. DICE did manage to fix this later in the day, and players should now be able to join up and play normally. The update came with a new map, exposure, a new specialist, 2 new guns, a new gadget, 2 new vehicles, and a progression tree for unlocking, well, everything. And generally speaking, the community's reaction to the content itself is very positive. The new map is one of the best in the game so far, and it offers a lot of great combat situations. It also seems to handle 128 players quite well compared to previous maps, though it does get quite intense in some of the corridor firefights. The seasonal progression tree also offers quite a bit of mission running and unlocks to keep people busy, though it's unclear how long this will take to complete. The new weapons, vehicles, and specialists are fine. The guns are nothing over the top, essentially an AS-Val and a crossbow, but they do bring some variety to the small amount of weapons currently in the base game. The general sentiment I've seen from social media and browsing Reddit is that people are having fun with the new map, they like the new content, and that they just want more of it. And I would say that echoes my feelings as well. DICE has made 2042 much more stable since launch, and now people want, well, good content for the game. A lot of people bought 2042, and many of them are coming back to check out the update. The Steam player count just passed 13,000 concurrent, and it's possible it'll go even higher over the weekend, which would be the highest it's been since January. And if anything, I think that this shows that despite Battlefield's fan base waving goodbye to 2042 for the past 7 months, they do want fun new Battlefield content, and it's really up to DICE to bring them back in and make them stick around. Whether that new content comes in the form of map reworks, specialist redesigns, new maps, and weapons, people want it, which is both good and bad. It's good that 2042 appears to be a platform that gamers could see a future with, but it's bad if Jeff Grubb's latest report on the state of 2042's development bears any truth. On his Giant Bomb YouTube channel, game reporter Jeff Grubb mentioned that DICE's 2042 team is down to a skeleton crew, the bare bones. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, the devs are working on just the requirements of the seasonal content. They're working to pump out the content the fastest and cheapest that they can. We should set our expectations low as it's going to be fast and dirty. The reason for doing this is to move everyone to the next Battlefield as quickly as possible. His understanding is that the real core crew is already working on the new Battlefield game. And since making this statement, DICE has responded to Eurogamer in a statement where they called the report untrue, insisting that there is a significant team at DICE alongside other studios focused on evolving and improving the Battlefield 2042 experience for all players. Now, what is my take on this? Firstly, I have respect for Jeff Grubb, even though he hasn't always been correct in the past. Most of his errors tend to be around getting release times slightly wrong rather than misinterpreting company intentions. I would imagine that his information comes from people in a position to interpret the situation somewhat accurately. That being said, there are some subtle inaccuracies with this statement based on just what DICE has been doing and have said that they plan to do. The specialist reworks and map reworks are not part of the promised seasonal content. Instead, it's what DICE wants to do to make the game a better experience. So in that sense, it's not entirely true that DICE is doing the fastest and cheapest approach to make good on their seasonal promises, though it could be argued that they're doing the bare minimum to mitigate damage and the public sentiment before trying to switch your focus to the next game. And regarding EA's response, it's not the first time that they've mentioned that a sizable team is still working on 2042. Back in April, Frederick Draber, a game designer at EA, responded to somebody asking about how many people were working on 2042, and he said almost everyone. And the only problem with DICE claiming to have considerable developers on board with 2042 is that it just simply doesn't add up with the quantity of content the community is receiving. 0 Hour, despite having good content, represents the smallest content injection after the longest period of waiting that the franchise has seen in its modern gaming history. How can a full team of developers be pumping out such a small amount of content? The map revisions are still not here, and even those are coming at a snail's pace of one per season. And the language that DICE uses to refute the skeleton crew accusations from Grubb is also kind of vague, saying stuff like a significant team at DICE. The word significant means, well, basically nothing and is open to interpretation. Is a dev team of 20 people significant? What constitutes significant numbers, and what are those numbers compared to its full production team? Companies can also do stuff like having employees assist on projects, which would allow them to artificially inflate team numbers, even though the core team might be much smaller. Considering the state that 2042 launched in, it also begs the question, well, was the production team for this game ever significant when compared to, say, Battlefield 1's production team? And regarding the other studios still involved with this project, again, DICE is super vague. How are they involved? What kind of things are they working on? If there was cool and exciting stuff planned for this game, now would definitely be the time to tease it. I personally find it hard to believe that other studios are involved in ways beyond just fixing or tweaking the current tech. Like using 2042 as the building blocks for their next game, maybe they can just fix some bugs in 2042 and claim to be involved with the project, even though it's mainly for getting the engine ready for their next project. Really, it's up to DICE to prove that they've committed to this game, and the quantity of content that they're rolling out does nothing but reinforces Jeff Grubb's sentiment about a skeleton crew. Someone made a Reddit post comparing Call of Duty live service content from the past several games to Battlefield 2042, and it's honestly an embarrassing comparison. And while it's not totally fair to compare the juggernaut that is COD to, say, Battlefield, I can only imagine the budgeting differences are astronomical. There are, however, some weird problems with DICE where every game they release feels like they're starting over from square one, taking few advancements made from the previous games and injecting a whole new set of problems and poor design decisions. The studio seems like it's a band trying to change their musical genre, and their fan base is predictably uninterested in the new direction. And an interesting point that Jeff Grubb brought up in his show is that there are many stories of studios saving games that had poor launches, Rainbow Six Siege being one of the more impressive examples. Looking at Anthem, SimCity, Medal of Honor, honestly there's a long list of titles, EA appears to operate like a cold accountant, crunching the numbers to achieve the best quarterly reports with little regard for the blood, sweat, and tears of the developers or the passion from the fans. Now, obviously, I'm not an executive at Electronic Arts, and I don't know any of this for sure, but it's certainly what it seems like, having followed the company closely for well over 10 years. At this point in 2042's content rollout, any little morsel of maps or weapons feels fantastic, like your first bite of food after being starved. And while I will say that Zero Hour is worth playing and checking out, DICE is not giving me much reason to believe that there will be a rich future for this game, which is what the studio has to do if they want a live service system to work. It's kind of ridiculous to expect players to buy cosmetics and invest more of their time in a progression system that will mean nothing once support is dropped. And I think I speak for the majority of the Battlefield community here in saying that I don't imagine for a second that DICE plans to make more content for this game past Season 4. And don't get me wrong, I would love to be proved wrong here. Honestly, I do want what's best for this game, but the vibes and messaging coming from the studio are all too familiar. DICE put in a lot of work to make Battlefield 5's disastrous launch a lot better, and by the time the content for the game started to turn around, well, it was all over. They had fulfilled their content promises for the game, and that was pretty much it. Anyway, I'm probably going to pop back in for a bit to play a little bit more on that new exposure map. It is a good time, but beyond that, I don't see a single map holding my attention for too long, nor do I see it holding the attention of the community for that long either. What do you guys think about this new content in the future of 2042? Do you think Jeff Grubb is right with the skeleton crew accusations? Do you think EA is actually committed to this game? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.